Hello, YouTube, fellow tankers, and even my clanmates. I am Shrine King, and you've arrived at another King's Court review of a tank within World of Tanks. And today we're going to be looking at the Tier 8 Hawk. Those who are new and arriving, I'm going to go over kind of pros and cons, whether or not the line is worth it, and any notation within the line, like before or after this particular tank. And then on top of that, I then go into a guide kind of showing or describing how to best play the tank for performance in hopes to go through that tank on your way to your tier 10. So again, this is the tier 8 Hawk. It is a German light, and it is the only light within the line. So here I was going through some stuff, kind of like comparing for guns and things like that, kind of figuring out damage output, penetration rates, and things like that. So the one thing I want to note right out the door is pros for the tank. The gun damage and penetration is really nice. Now I will get into a con that will state a little bit different when it comes to the gun aspects, but that is the second half of that. So the other pros that come with this tank is it has very good camo. It is not the highest camo, but it is very good. And then it gets the best eyes in the game for the tier. Along with it is extremely mobile. And what I mean there is it gets up to speed really quick. It's able to turn really fast, like just a whole 9 yards. It is really good in that regard. Now, the other part that it has is it has a decent size to it. So like when you're kind of looking at lights, the lower or smaller, it's usually the better. One, your camo is usually higher if you're smaller. Two, the other part there is it becomes harder and more difficult to hit you, especially as a very fast moving target. So the smaller your size, the better in that case. Now, con-wise, now you're probably thinking to yourself like, "Well, man, how many cons can there really be?" You kind of just listed off a lot of the stuff that you want. And that's very true. So like when it comes to the cons, there isn't really a lot of cons to this. But to me, the number one is the travel velocity of the shells for the gun. Strangely enough, most German tanks, all their travel velocity or shell velocity, I should say, of their rounds were really good. So it was very strange to me to get into this tank and find out that this is as slow as most of the derp cannons that you run into at like tier 3. And it's like where we could just, basically send it via mail and it's about as fast. Like, where's the horseman just running to the tank with my shell? I mean, it's really absurd to me. I don't know why it was so slow. I don't know if it was like a historical fact or something, but it's just, it's horrible. Now, that said, right, accuracy and things like that, those are still really good. The aim time to me, I wish was kind of better, so that's another one I would list as a con, is the aim time was kind of low. And then the other bit is obviously with most lights, you're looking at, there's no real armor to the light. So what you're looking at is that this light, for example, is pretty much overmatched from any round I've shot at it. So you do not want to be taking shots. So that kind of gets into the discussion of what kind of tank or, whether or not, how you should play it. So that would be the guide side. But before I get into the guide side, the next bit is notations of the line, right? And is the line worth it? So while I found the tier 7 to be abysmal to me, and that's the SPIC, the tier 7, that thing was really slow. The gun was supposed to be considered really good, which it's like, yeah, the damage output is up there, right? And if you get the shell to hit properly, it's great. But it was the same thing. Like, the shell velocity was really horrible, so therefore I find the gun to be practically useless in that case. And then the fact that the tank couldn't get up to speed very fast also made it very useless to me unless you were trying to play only as an active scout. Now, even then, the turn on the SPIC was pretty bad. So I don't like, to me, the tier 7 was really rough. The Hawk is kind of like mediocre in my opinion when you compare to a lot of other lights. But the line is absolutely worth it. So one, it's the only German line light line that there is. So that's one side of it. The other bit is that the Tier 9, the Rue 251, is an immediate reprieve. So it has every pro that this tank has, and then some. All right, so like the the travel velocity of the shells and stuff like that is immediately fixed. You're firing APCR as your normal round, which helps out with the factor that if you're trying to snipe people and you catch an angle, you now have a better chance for normalization. Then you still have the heat option for like if you're hitting flat surface targets that have just crazy amounts of armor. It's overall phenomenal. Like even the aim time gets better. Like just the whole 9 yards. The tank is just amazing. So it's definitely worth it for sure. Now, how do you get through this tank? How do you get to this amazing Tier 9 tank that I'm talking about? So what I would advise is that you want to start playing passive. Right? Now, for those that don't know, passive is basically me saying you want to go and get into bush. Right? Active is I want to go run around like a maniac as if I maybe stole this tank. Now, what do I mean by you want to start? So my general rule is in a passive scout, it's not a good idea to stay passive forever. And I'm sure I've had some guides or other reviews where I've mentioned this before. But usually the first 3.5 minutes, that's usually your passive timing. Right? After that, you want to go inactive. Right? But it kind of depends on what kind of scenario you're in. And like this map is actually a great one to point out because this one, you might actually want to be passive longer. Now, when I made this video and when I'm talking about these discussion points, a lot of this was before they introduced the wheeled light vehicles, which kind of changed things a little bit now. So because of the wheeled light vehicles, all that's really changed is those who are doing passive need to bear in mind how fast the wheeled vehicles are and the fact that they're going to be active, but they're also going to be active trying to get close to the areas that you would go hide so that they spot you. So, and they don't have very good eyes, and that's the kind of catch. So, what I recommend is wherever you normally would have gone, go slightly farther back, right? Now, we'll see where I go with this one. I forget offhand, but I'm pretty sure I'm heading right to that bush, straight ahead. Now, you'll notice there's not a lot of bush options, right? So what I could have done is that bush right there. I could have stopped right here, which actually I did stop in this one. So if there was wheeled vehicles, I could have gone here. But you'll see, even without wheeled vehicles with the E25, which does get up to like 70, 75, right? I was able to get there before they could spot me, right? Now that's with vehicles that would have had good eyes. That same spot probably would have still worked even with the wheeled vehicles. But in case it wouldn't, right? And this is stuff that you would have to test, but in case it wouldn't, you'd actually just go to the bush that's farther on the inside. Now, does this mean you're going to be spotting the middle as much? No. No, actually you probably won't spot it at all. But it does mean you'll still spot this path, right? And that's what we're looking for here. Is I want to be able to spot this path all the way down here for all these guys that we see right now. So, this is still me showing you the aspect of that passive side, right? So it's get to a bush early. You'll notice I even ran chocolate. The reason I'm running chocolate is, again, just to get me up to top speed a little bit faster. It was also to help me with the gun aim time, right? Because the aim time is a little bit slow, in my opinion. And then that allows also for, the good mobility and things like that boosted, right, for when I'm trying to be active. Now, when you go active, the catch with this, I shouldn't say catch, but the key thing with this tank is that it is very maneuverable, right? And that's something that's a little different than quite a few other tanks. So a lot of them, yeah, you know what, they'll get up to really fast speeds, and they can turn pretty good, but they're not turning exceptionally good, like on the dime kind of good. This thing can actually do it. And that's kind of the catch to it, right? So you want to be weaving, right? Now, given it does get to a really good top speed of like 65, I think, is the top on this one. Which the Tier 9 is even better on that. I think the Tier 9 gets up to like 72. So, while you're not the highest, right, because there's definitely lights that are out there that do have 70, right? And then now with the wheeled lights, right, they're going like 80, 90s, right? It's crazy. So obviously you won't compare to those, but even when they're at those 80s, 90s, right, they can't swerve as much, right? So, and they'll lose speed, right? And that's the catch too with you. Is you'll turn and you'll lose some speed, but you'll be surprised. It's not a lot. And usually and that has to do with ground resistances and how much turning capability that you have in a second and stuff like that. And because this one actually has higher turn capability, you actually can dodge and weave pretty well without losing a lot of speed. So the other piece of advice I would give here is much like I mentioned. I'm looking at like 3.5 minutes, like for the mark of when I would actually go from passive to active. And because I say that, you'll be surprised at how many people feel like 1 minute is 5 minutes. Right? So I want to give a recommendation to be patient. Just because you see, oh man, there's one guy who's really struggling. Oh look, we found like 4 guys. That doesn't mean start going active. Like, no. The longer you're hidden, the longer that the enemy does not know where you are, where they're getting spotted from, right? Or who is exactly spotting them. That's all within benefit to you and your team. Right? Now, if they started, and the other part I will note is if they, for whatever reason, I saw that they were starting to blind fire some of the bushes and things like that, try to hold out. Now, what does that mean though? Let's say you do take a blind fire. Does that mean you need to get the heck out of there right now? No. No. They don't know. They really don't know. At best, the guy who did it, or gal, is going to say, I think I might have hit somebody. I didn't see the round actually show like a dirt explosion or something like that. So when that happens, you want to wait a little bit. Make sure that if you took like a crew hit or repair or anything like that, that you still wait, right? And then you move. Now, so here you'll see I did move, right? So I was at that mark. Actually, I think I was at like a 4-minute mark. So I did move, but you'll see here, like I'm able to get up to speed. I'm able to rush and dodge and weave, and I'm still going, right? I see that this guy's not really looking at me, and that's okay. But like I said, the round like speed of this wasn't that good. So it's in the condition that you get to like this, where you're actually going to be kind of closer combat, it works pretty good. That said, at the same time, pardon me, apparently I'm getting a phone call. And that said, if you get into a situation where you're actually like able to hide behind a rock and you're kind of going toe to toe with someone, this tank actually performs really well for that as long as it's not long distance, right? So the nice part about it is that you can actually do the whole rock portion where you're just like, twist or, kind of going in and out, in and out, in and out so fast that they actually most likely won't be able to compete with you. So that is one good thing to note. What I would make sure to point out to you though is that if you are doing that, don't do it forward, like your forward end coming out of the rock. You want to turn around so all that it's where your turret is, because your turret is rear mounted. So you want to make sure that the part that you're coming out with is actually your turret, which works even better because you come out a little bit slower, but you can pull forward much faster. So what ends up happening is by the time they even see you and you snap shot, you're already pulling forward, and they most likely won't even get an opportunity to shoot at you. And that's what you want. That is the ideal scenario. And you'll see here, like with this whole thing, like once I went active, I drove it like I stole it. I was like, okay, I went charging at them, dodged and weaved. Once they finally all started showing the signs that they were actually going to keep shots on me, I went ahead and I used my small tankness to go over the hill and then get it to where they would not be able to shoot me. All right, now they'd have to come chase me if they wanted to, and they could have, which probably would have ended badly for me. But the other thing here is, like I said, the gun, the damage, the penetration is really good. So you'll see there, like as I was shooting, I didn't have any trouble actually penning him. It's just if he was on the move or anything like that, I'd be in some real trouble because, if it was distant too, that would be the other part. Then I'd be in some real trouble. So, again, is the tank worth it? Yeah. This tank overall was not that bad. It was enjoyable to play. I did play it very passively, stealth ninja-ish or bush Wookiee-ish, depending on how you want to call it. And then, like I said, I never try to stick to just being passive all the time. So I go from passive to active, and then to active to passive, depending on the scenario. So like where I'm really hurt, there's still a lot going on. It's better to keep the eyes on the field, right? So I'll find a designated spot where maybe we don't have so much on the flank, or maybe we do have quite a bit defending, and I get spaced away from my team, and then keep those eyes out there for the team. Like even in this scenario, I'm actually going hunting, not trying to kill him. I'm actually just looking for him. And then it turned out I got the opportunity, and you'll see there you're able to snap fire too and lock on, because the turret traverse is actually really good too. So I hope this has been beneficial. If it is, and you enjoy these videos and this is helpful for you, please like and subscribe. I do come out with videos all the time. And I'm trying to get a little more into like Clan Wars stuff and things like more competitive side. So I'm gonna try to make some videos for that too, and hopefully that'll be helpful. But again, please support. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's other videos you want, and I will catch you on my next video.